Welcome to Traderade Interviews. This is the first episode in a series where we want to showcase successful women in trading. And our first and very special guest today is Anne-Marie Baiynd. Hi, Anne-Marie. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for taking the time to speak to me and make this an encouraging conversation for women everywhere.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I'm looking forward to digging into the process.
Great. So the first thing I want to ask you, obviously, is how did you get started in trading?
So, this is a very funny story. I think a lot of us, as we approach the age of being near 60, we've gone through a couple of iterations of our careers. And so when I first started really making money doing work, I was a neuroscience researcher, and the work was fulfilling, but there just all you ate was ramen noodles. It was no pay, terrible pay. And then you always sat in a room with a lot of brain surgeons who have very elevated senses of selves. And when you are the lowly statistician, it just was not fulfilling, even though I loved the math and I loved doing that stuff. And so I went through a number of iterations, and I ended up being the owner of a recruiting company that recruited technical people like myself. And I did that for 14 years. And the work was exhausting. And I literally had 20-hour days most of the time. And I thought, you know what? I'm totally burned out. It's been great. I'm looking for another run. And I'd spent all those years with the behavioral part of individuals. What makes them say yes to a job? What makes them say no? What are they afraid of? What are they looking forward to? And it built a great behavioral foundation for people. And then I had all the math. And I thought one day, I could barely spell the word stock, but I took some folks in my staff to see success magazines. They used to have those things where they have tons of people and they talk about all kinds of motivational things. Well, someone came in and talked about stocks, and I looked at it and I went, how easy is that? And so I said, I'm going to do it. And I was very fortunate to have a lot of funding from all the work that I'd done in my past. And I stepped right into it and began to lose all of it very quickly. Because although it looks simple in hindsight, one of the things we don't realize, you have to be fluid. Your body has to be fluid. And I didn't learn that until very much later in the game, because I used my rules about mathematics, saying if this, then this. And I quickly realized that it doesn't matter what your math says. It's about how everybody's feeling. And so once I tapped into that, I think it gave me really a lot of strength as a woman, tapping into that. All right, let's see if we can catch more of the feel. What do these candlesticks tell me about how people feel at a certain price? And so the two things marry together, and I'm almost in the game 20 years, and it's more enjoyable every day.
Wow, that's absolutely fascinating. I mean, the change of career going
I
from
know.
neuroscience and then now to trading, that's absolutely brilliant. And so, I guess it's never too late to be what you might have been, right?
Exactly.
So, but you said something really nice about how being a woman kind of helped you with the behavioral issues. Now, I understand that you had a whole background in, behavioral science, let's say, but at the same time, you
Yes.
said that being a woman helped you. How so?
Yes. I was not afraid to look at things in a way that was different to all the gentlemen that were teaching me, because I have a tendency to be a little bit of a maverick anyway. So I looked at candlesticks, and instead of saying, okay, this is a Maribozu or this is a whatever, using all the fantastic words, I said, if price action is making these moves, how are people feeling when they're doing that? And so I literally began to look at the market as people that I needed to navigate myself in the midst of. And as a woman, not that some women don't like being in the front of the room, because there are, and it takes all kinds, but I'm more of a, let me sit back and watch how people are behaving. And I could see that in the candlesticks. And it gave me great insight. And it was because I chose to focus on the emotion rather than the framework of, okay, price is going from here to here.
That's absolutely so interesting and such a nice way to put it, honestly. I mean, I think sometimes we tend to forget that the market is made out of people, right? So we're kind of looking at it as something that's mechanical versus something that's
Yes.
emotional. And
Yes.
I think that's where we kind of get caught off guard sometimes, or
Yes.
people get caught off guard sometimes.
Yeah.
And so that's a really, really good lesson. Speaking of lessons, you've written a book. Uh,
Yeah.
where did you find the time to write a book?
So very interestingly, still had 5 teenagers at home. Now we were sharing time between all the different parents that were there. But what I found was that I was sitting in a space where I needed to understand what I was looking at so much that after the day was done, I began to just write my thoughts. And so when it came to be that I had all these notes, literally out of the blue, a woman from McGraw Hill reached out and she said, you know, how about you write a book for us? And for every person who's ever wanted to publish a book, I realize that that is not the way it normally works. I did have great fortune that someone out of the blue said, hey, why don't you write a book for us? And I said, oh, I have all these notes. And so for about a year and a half, I slept maybe 4 hours a night and just wrote on the edges of those, either right after the market was closed or before the market was open. And it was a very bearing book because I talked about but the market continually proving you wrong, because it's not about what's smart or about what's legitimate or about what's logical. It's about how people feel. And that's all there is to it. And so I really had to bring that out. And it was very cathartic. It was good for me, but also very, very bearing. I mean, literally, I just cried a lot because I couldn't figure out what was happening. Men, they want to break things when they get mad. Women, we have a tendency to cry when we're mad. And so I literally cried a lot, but I absolutely had such a love for what I was seeing that I just couldn't bear the thought of giving up.
So, speaking of not giving up, and speaking of the late nights that you spent working and writing and putting all of this together after your trading hours, it seems like you need a lot of discipline and, you know, you need to be tenacious when you're trading. So, what other kind of attributes should we develop as traders?
So I'm not sure if you've read the book Grit,
No, I haven't.
but it's a very good book. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a very good book, and it really is an anchor point. If you are someone that feels defeated easily,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit of a reflection of maybe how you feel about yourself. And so a lot of us gain confidence from others encouraging us. And some of us gain confidence by saying, I just don't want to give up. I'm just going to keep trying. Now, that could be bad. If I wanted, because I'm 5'0", if I wanted to be a professional basketball player, it doesn't really matter how much I practice. I'm missing some physical attributes. But trading is not like that. We can train ourselves up. And the wonderful thing that we hear that's true, maybe not wonderful, but maybe is wonderful, is the market will uncover your weaknesses as an individual. If you are afraid of missing out, if you are afraid of not being involved, if you are, I want to use the term poverty conscious because it is a sense of, listen, this is a space where you have to use money to make money. And if you're constantly concerned about how much you're going to lose, although it builds good risk, you'll die a death by 1,000 cuts because your focus is not on why you're entering the trade. The focus for someone who's really thinking, oh my gosh, I can't lose any of this, that focus becomes, well, if I automatically dip down, I'm wrong and I have to get out. And there's a flexing, because we must look at risk and we must identify risk. And this also, I think women do very, very well. Now, why is that? Well, mostly because we're trying to keep the small humans alive, number one. And then number two, I think genetically we're just predisposed to making sure there are environments that we won't get hurt or the people that we're caring for won't get hurt. And so we tend to maybe obsess over that risk. So although there are many amazing women traders, if you look at the guys that are at the top of the heap, they really are guys. And it's because they went for broke. They went absolutely full bore, poorhouse or living at the penthouse, and it happened to work out for them. And that is something that a lot of people don't want to embrace as truth, but it absolutely is. Women have a great ability to manage that risk. It's focusing on that risk management while being patient enough for price to come back or to move forward to where you're looking and then execute. That's, I think that's a problem because a lot of us, we love trading or the environment of trading. We're normally a little bit high-tempered. We have a little bit more of a briskness to our pace.
If I'm just starting out, I know nothing about trading. Where would you ask me to start, or where would you tell me to start?
So there are a lot of interesting places to go, but the first thing you have to ask yourself is, why do I want to trade? And if that question is answered by, well, I see myself living on a private island with 1,000 servants, then I would say, go to school, get yourself some degrees and then some FINRA things, and then open up a hedge fund and charge people to hold their money. Yeah. Because that's the only way that happens in a hurry, right? You can really collect a lot. That's why the hedge fund business is so big, right? 2 and 20, right? Mm-hmm. So I take your money and I don't have to have anything to give you back, except, if it goes well or not. But if you're looking for something that says, hey, I'd like to make a living, I'd like to build a fortune over time, and I'd like to have career independence where I'm looking for something that's going to give me control over my finances and a pathway to independence, that's really the ideal answer. And so you have to fetter out. If you go, hey, I just want a big house. Well, why do you want a big house? Do you have 25 children, or would you like to show off to the neighbors? If you have 25 children, it makes sense. You need a big house. Most of us don't have 25 children. We just want to show off to the neighbors. And that is an ego event that can put you in spaces that will allow you to make poor decisions. And the market fleshes that out, which is the beautiful thing. The market has the ability to find out where it is you are going to hit the guardrails, and it will open a space for you to go there. So that really is that first space. So anchor why it is you want to trade, what you want to do in that place of trading, and then say, how much time do I have to commit? Build the structure for trading like you're going to build a business. If you are going to open up a sweet shop or anything, you're going to go, okay, how much time do I have to devote to this? How much do I know about the workings of this? How do I get all my finances in shape so that I can begin the journey? And although it sounds like a lot of stuff, it really is just simple. It's simple. You sit down and you go, okay, how much time do I have to devote? Well, I've got these as responsibilities, and this is my time. So I'm going to focus X many times on this. How do I want my income to graduate? And although I know that sounds very stair level, but really the greatest thing about trading is that there's no barrier to entry. The most horrible thing about trading is that there's no barrier to entry. And so we can jump in and not think about things as a business. And so that, I think that's one of the most empowering things for women, when they can say, listen, I can have a business. It can be any time of day after my children have gone to bed, before my children wake up, while my children are at school, or if you don't have any of those responsibilities, whatever it is that you choose, and then say, I'm going to commit to this amount of time to understand it. And the great things that are out there are anchors, like places like Traderade, like Substacks like Macrovisor, that say, here's what you want to look at in the market that tells you how things will move. And so it's sort of like going to a party for the first time where you don't know anyone. Unless you're crazy outgoing, you're going to sit back and go, okay, who looks approachable? Who doesn't look approachable? Who do I absolutely want to stay away from? And how can I mingle and not get myself into a pickle by engaging in conversations where I look like the town idiot? So that really is the invitation to trading. You just step in, go to places that are strong, that teach you information. And then let's say you're looking for a glossary of things. Well, I don't even know what this means. Investopedia is one of the most wonderful free sites that literally will break down every single thing that you want to know about a business. Now, if you look at trading and you go, wow, that's exciting, and I've been telling you to do all these very boring things, just realize you have got to build a layer of concrete before you build that house up, or you'll be on sand. And anything built on sand will collapse. So you've just got to do the work of the business and then get yourself involved in, oh, okay, if I want to take this position, how much would I win? How much would I lose? What are the parameters? And again, someplace like Investopedia, it's fantastic. I mean, literally a fantastic place to go. I know that was such a long answer. I'm so bad at the long answers.
No, thank you so much. I mean, honestly, I want to let you speak because this is what we want. We want people to understand that it's not that difficult, but at the same time, there are things that we need to pay attention to. And you put it so beautifully. So thank you for that, and thank you for the shout out as well, and for joining us. I know I want to be mindful of your time because I know we're in the middle of the trading day. So just a couple of more questions if that's okay.
Sure, of course, of course.
So the one thing I wanted to ask you is a little bit about your strategy. So I've obviously seen you post in Traderade, and I've seen your videos. I've seen your charts. They're so
Mhm.
nice, by the way. I think that the best looking charts I've seen.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
I think that's the other edge women bring. They make prettier charts.
Yes, it's more important.
Yes. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your strategy and how you look at the market in general, without, giving away too much.
Yeah. So the thing that first of all, for the giving away too much, I had such a hard time learning that at this stage in the game, I love giving away the secret sauce because I'm at the space where if all I do is shuffle money around, how do I add value outside of spending that money in good places? How do I add value to my community? And so I love that, which I think is also a thing that women do very well. We enjoy bolstering our communities up, which is why you've done what it is that you're doing right now. And I feel very honored to be that first guest. So when I first started trading, I, like every generally smart-ish person, I just added way too much information. And I realized that less is always more. So if a trader wants to gain strength in understanding what the market participants are doing at any time, the big things to focus on are support and resistance. And that is literally the anchor of everything I do.
Mhm.
If I break resistance, my resistance is being broken because people are buying. I don't know why they're buying. They could be buying because they're short and they have to buy to get out of their position. Or they could be buying because, hey, they like to buy the breakout and they're going to take it into the next level.
Mhm.
So after I took all of my charts from looking like bowls of spaghetti to just clean candlesticks and some lines that say this is support, this is resistance,
Mhm.
and then use that emotional content that says, wait, why would I be selling if I were here? Turn it into a logical whatever. I mean, if I go to the grocery and the oranges that I normally buy are half off, I'm going to go, oh, that's on sale. I'm going to buy that. And that value event happens in the market also.
Mhm.
It's where everybody else says, hey, I want to buy here. And you can see that by support. So if support breaks, it means people are either going to disagree about value or they are going to return to that value event. And so as long as you focus on, am I above support, above resistance, and is that support moving higher and higher, or is that resistance moving lower and lower? Those two anchors tell me what the traders are doing. And if I have patience, I can wait. Now, last night, I put some trades on. I said, hey, listen, I'm going to go long, but I'm
Mhm.
waiting for the fade. And wouldn't you know it, the market never came back and got me. It just kept creeping a little higher because it didn't come to my floor, but that was where I had established the risk. And so as long as you say it's okay if I miss a trade, let it come to me where my risk is defined.
Mhm.
then you're going to have that space. And I literally do that over and over and over and over and over again every single day. I try to make it as not thought free, but as simple as possible so that my brain doesn't spin up, because one thing that women do is overthink a lot of things. We very rarely take things at face value. And so
Absolutely.
that, yeah, we have to stop the overthinking in the market.
That's absolutely true. And I love how you say, just keep it simple, because I do
Yes,
trade a little bit. And, there was a point where I got into looking at everybody else's charts, and they had this indicator and that indicator and like so many different things on the chart. And I wanted to try all of them out. They seemed also
right.
very interesting. But then I started to realize I I don't really understand what all of these do, and
Exactly.
maybe putting all of them together gets very, very confusing. So I love how you say,
Yeah.
just keep it simple, and I
Yeah.
think that's the best thing. I mean, I'm an amateur trader. I'm not anywhere close to your level of expertise, but I can totally relate to what you're saying. And taking that step back for me has actually helped me so much.
Oh, yeah, me too. Me too. It was a turning point in my trading career, because I literally, if you want to talk about money dying, it was completely down the side of a mountain until, my husband said, I don't really think you know what you're doing. So maybe you ought to figure it out before you spend anymore. And literally, we have such a good relationship that I was able to look at him and go, oh, you're probably right. And so I said, hey, I'm just going to put one moving average up. And if the
Mhm.
moving average is going up, I'm going to wait until it hits support and I'm going to buy it. And if it's down, I'm going to wait until it hits resistance and I'm going to sell it. And then everything else is going to be some element of noise. But as long as I know direction, and if I don't have direction, I'm just going to trade the edges. I'm going to buy the bottom and sell it at the top, buy the bottom and sell at the top. And it's it's really, I don't want to say that it's foolproof, but I certainly know the second I get in whether I'm right or wrong.
Mhm.
And that's really what I needed, or else I would be overthinking, which of course we discussed already.
Great. So last question. What's your most memorable day in the markets?
Oh, wow. Full I'm the type of personality that has a tendency to obsess on my failures, because I think somehow they grind me up to some level of success, which is not a good way to be, because what ends up happening is that you have all this defeatist internal chatter that pulls your confidence down. So I, I consistently have to reframe myself by going, all right, let's see where you could have done better. But it's still also focused on, why did you miss the sweet spot? And so, in terms of memorable days, one of the most memorable days I ever had in the market was trading a very big trade into the earnings of Intuitive Surgical about, I guess, maybe 14 years ago, right about 14 years ago. And I was so convinced that I knew what this chart was going to do. I mean, I'd seen the Da Vinci machine. I knew these guys are great, and they're still great, right? I mean, they're still great. But when they opened up, I was, they opened up $100 down a share. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And I was so long the wrong side
Oh, wow.
of, and the volatility also had a crush.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was the double whammy. And literally, I saw what was happening and I shut my machine down. I didn't even get out of the trade. I shut my machine down and I went outside and I screamed at the top of my lungs. But what it gave me was that sense of, what got you in this space? And I had to be accountable for that. And that space of, hey, you are completely accountable for getting yourself in this kind of mess.
Mm-hmm.
How are you not going to do that again? How is that never going to happen? And it became the hairpin in my career. It really was. It was the hairpin turn that
Mm-hmm.
got me on that right track. So not a great story, but man, the lessons were superb. And I definitely needed to learn them.
Sometimes we need to learn the hard way. I'm sorry you had to
Yeah,
go through that, but
yeah,
you know, I guess, as you said, it turned your career around, and today you're
yeah,
successful. You know what not to do. And I think we all need to have some of those bumps along the way.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And it builds that strength for you. You know, there's nothing worse. The gut punch that you get from, the way we think about money is so visceral that a gut punch like that, you got to take away the following. The
Hmm.
market is a machine that is going to give you a lesson every day.
Hmm.
If you learn the lessons every day, you'll get better. But if you keep having to relearn the lessons, it is not going to be a good place to be.
Hmm.
And that is what it is. So embrace the learning, embrace the failure, embrace the challenge, and good things come out of that. And that's true for life too.
That's awesome. So I just want to thank you so much for taking the time
It's my
today. It was
pleasure.
wonderful. I learned so much, and I hope our audience does as well. And I hope everyone finds this encouraging. I find it fascinating. I never wanted to get into finance at all. I actually did my degree in marketing, and I was all ready to have this fantastic career in Procter and Gamble or something of that sort, uh, perhaps advertising. And then I joined a bank, and the rest is history. So,
Yeah,
but I can't think
I love
about
that. That's
doing,
the same thing.
yeah,
Yeah, I know.
I can't think about doing anything else
I
anymore.
know. It's a fever.
Hmm.
You get a fever for it, and you do. You
Absolutely.
end up loving, and the content that you write that says, hey, this is happening, so watch out for this, or this is happening to watch out for this. So particularly with what's going on with the China bonds
Hmm.
and all of that stuff rolling on there, it's just a landscape that is so, I think it's just the most engaging work that you've ever done. And you get to connect with people who understand things at levels that are totally different to yours. And it builds a better framework of, well, how are we working in these big pictures all together? It's just a wonderful place. I would recommend it to anyone. I wish more women traded. And it's more about building that confidence of, hey, you can do that. That's easy. Just try it and keep asking questions.
Absolutely. That's such great advice to close on. Thank you so much again. And
My pleasure.
I obviously will be in touch, but I hope you can come back again sometime soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye bye.